The top 10 curious and fun facts about Area 51. Number 10. Paradise Lost. What would be a good name for a dry, inhospitable place that tested weapons, including nuclear ones? Does the word paradise come to mind? In 1955, at the request of the CIA, Clarence Leonard Kelly Johnson, a brilliant American aeronautical and systems engineer, initiated the construction of an airbase at Groom Lake, Nevada. He realized that it might be difficult to entice scientists and personnel to such a barren location, and that's why he proposed that Area 51 should be called Paradise Ranch. But after complaints by disappointed recruits, it was renamed Area 51. He was justifiably famous for developing the Lockheed U-2 and many other supersonic aircraft, but perhaps his skills in PR were a little limited. Number 9. Synchronized hoovering. Imagine, if you would, 30 Air Force personnel, shoulder to shoulder, marching down a runway, hoovering it. It's like a bizarre scene from The Simpsons, or from the British absurdist comedy Monty Python's Flying Circus, and yet apparently this happens nearly every day at Area 51. The Nevada desert is great for keeping the operations cheap and isolated. The weather is perfect for flights, and the flat lake bed is ideal for building runways, but it's so dusty that aeroplane engines easily get jammed. And for that reason, the base crew has to regularly sweep and vacuum the runways. None of them has ever said whether they enjoy the task, but they probably think it sucks. 8. Extraterrestrial dolls. When an aeronautical engineer with 40 years' experience at Lockheed Martin, who has 25 patents about laser-guided smart bomb systems, claims to have been involved with aliens, perhaps we should take him seriously. Boyd Bushman claimed that he'd helped extraterrestrial beings to implement anti-gravity technology at Area 51. He further stated that there were two types of alien, Wrangler and Rustler aliens, who could travel between Earth and their own planet in only 45 minutes. As part of his proof, Boyd Bushman published a photograph of one of the aliens. Unfortunately, it was actually identified as a plastic alien doll that could be bought at Walmart. Number 7. Not so much of a secret. Area 51 was supposed to be such a secret that the Central Intelligence Agency didn't acknowledge its existence until 2013. And the only reason for the official disclosure was that, following the passing of the Freedom of Information Act, they'd no choice. Of course, no one was actually surprised. Area 51's existence had been known about for decades. Indeed, 20 years earlier, Larry King had hosted a documentary about it on network TV. Anyway, after the request, the CIA explained that the facility was used to test airplanes like the U-2 and the A-12, and also for research on behalf of the Atomic Energy Commission. Needless to say, there was no reference to extraterrestrials or UFOs. Number 6. Trespassing satellites. Although civilians can drive up to the gates of Area 51, entering it would not be advisable. Trespassing may result in a $1,000 fine, 6 months in prison, or both. But that hasn't stopped Google. In 2016, Google Earth published satellite images of Area 51, including a landing strip nearby. The runway is about a mile long, and there's a number of hangars clustered at one end. It is known that the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Defense both use the site, and although there's no official explanation as to its use, security experts have suggested that it's a drone testing site. Number 5. Lucky breakdance. The BBC has a reputation of being highly sensible and respectable and not given to silly pranks. This reputation hit the dirt in 2012, or more accurately, its reporters did. A BBC camera crew attempted to break into Area 51. They were rather disappointed as, to begin with, all they found was nothing of any interest. So to pass the time and have something for the cameras to record, they performed silly alien-style dances. Within minutes, they found themselves held at gunpoint and for 3 hours forced to lie face down in the dirt. After background checks were completed, they were allowed to go. Bearing in mind the warnings that are on the signs around the base, threatening arrest, fines and imprisonment, they certainly got lucky. Number 4. Don't mess with Goliath. We've all heard the biblical story about plucky David and his battle with Goliath. Unfortunately, in reality, it's usually Goliath who wins. In 1880, the Shahan family acquired mining rights for a location near Area 51's testing runway. But, they claim in the 1950s, they started being harassed. They said that aeroplanes strafed their property and on several occasions they were held at gunpoint in their own home. They also said that the mine was rendered useless, having been polluted with radiation through nuclear testing at Area 51, and in 1954 they claimed that their mine had been firebombed by the Air Force. To avoid a court appearance, the government offered them $5.2 million for their land, but they refused, and a few months later, after the offer had expired, the 400 acres of land was allegedly seized. 3. Closed? Really? Area 51 was officially abandoned in 1997 after the launching of the U-2 spy plane. So it came as a bit of a surprise that a highly advanced surveillance drone was shown to the public at Area 51 in 2014. In 2011, the Iranian military had captured an RQ-170 drone and had begun to reverse engineer it. The American military officials were not overly worried as they were dissatisfied with its quality and performance. Their new model, the RQ-180, was unveiled in 2014, correcting problems with the earlier model's aerodynamics. It was able to stay aloft for 24 hours with a range of over 1,200 miles and was extremely maneuverable. The RQ-170 drone, in contrast, had a maximum limit of just 6 hours and its guidance system was unreliable. Quite a result for a research facility that had allegedly been closed down 20 years earlier. Number 2. Not quite what they said. Many claims have been made about what was really going on at Area 51. The most popular ones were promoted in Annie Jacobsen's book, Area 51, An Uncensored History. During her research, she'd interviewed a number of retired personnel who had worked at the base. She claimed that they had told her about secret work on reverse engineering alien technology, and that the base had numerous flying saucers hidden in underground tunnels. Unfortunately, many of the interviewees subsequently said that she'd misrepresented them and their views. Reverse engineering of technology was going on, but it was the reverse engineering of Soviet technology following the capture of MiG jet fighters during the Cold War of the 1970s and 80s. They accepted that there were secret underground tunnels, but that they were associated with the Project Nerva nuclear research program conducted near Area 51 at a location called Jackass Flats. And the flying saucers? The indignant interviewees said that there was a vehicle dubbed the Ox Cart, which was a circular, fuel-carrying pod that admittedly did resemble a stereotypical flying saucer. Number 1. A road like no other. Nevada State Route 375 doesn't sound particularly enticing as a tourist spot, but Extraterrestrial Highway, that sounds like fun. In 1996, the state, to coincide with the release of the movie Independence Day, renamed Nevada State Route 375 to the Extraterrestrial Highway because it passes by Area 51. There are quirky rest stops all along the 98-mile stretch of road. At the intersection of the Extraterrestrial Highway and US 93 is the E.T. Fresh Jerky restaurant. Inside there's a mural that depicts an alien-style Wild West scene complete with alien cowboys. Further down the road, there's an Alien Research Center gift shop with its enormous alien statue standing guard. And at the town called Rachel, with its 40 inhabitants, there's a quirky and eccentric cafe called the Little A Leon, full of kitsch and memorabilia, and locals eager to share their stories of alien experiences. Like him or loathe him, Elon Musk is certainly one of the most interesting characters around. A visionary, a fraudster, only time will tell. We've all heard of his ambitious, possibly crazy plans to colonize Mars, and he certainly launched the project with a memorable prank when he used his own Midnight Cherry Tesla Roadster as a dummy payload for the Falcon Heavy test flight in February 2018. The mission was successful, and the car is now in an elliptical, heliocentric orbit that crosses the orbit of Mars. When he announced his plan a year earlier, Musk said that because the launch was very risky, it would carry, quote, "the silliest thing we can imagine." The driver is a full-size mannequin called Starman, dressed in a SpaceX precious spacesuit with his left elbow casually resting on the open windowsill. The sound system plays David Bowie's song Space Oddity on a continuous loop. A copy of Douglas Adams' novel The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is in the glove box. And for the aficionados of this great book, there's a towel on the back seat, and on the dashboard, a sign that reads, "Don't Panic," in large friendly letters. The launch was live-streamed from an onboard camera, but contrary to some reports, it was never meant to achieve a Mars orbit. This would have been impossible given that it wasn't equipped with propellant or maneuvering and communications capabilities. Western Australia police joined in the fun. They tweeted a photo of them pointing a radar gun aimed at the Tesla as it passed over Australia. It's not known if Musk has paid the speeding ticket. The only downside of this great jape is that there's a 6% chance that the Roadster will collide with the Earth, albeit in about 3 million years' time. Starman will then become the most famous crash test dummy ever. Following this eccentric first test using the Falcon Heavy rocket, Musk's company, SpaceX, announced details of their plans to colonize Mars by using a more advanced vehicle. And using it, SpaceX plans to send an unpiloted cargo mission to Mars in 2022. It will install solar power, equipment for mining, and life support infrastructure. It will also identify possible threats to potential colonization. Musk calls his spacecraft the Big Falcon Rocket, or BFR. It is a fully reusable vehicle with the capability of launching 150 tons into Earth orbit, more than any other rocket. Doing this will be the first step to its potential use in long-duration spaceflight, including as a cargo ship to Mars. Its propulsion system is revolutionary, using an engine which uses methane as its fuel. As a side note, the F in BFR originally stood not for Falcon, but for another rather Anglo-Saxon word. We'll leave it for you to work that one out. But once on Mars, what about the return journey? Elon Musk has figured that out as well. The main purpose of his cryogenic Methalox-fueled propulsion system is that the power source could be manufactured on Mars. In 2018, SpaceX announced its plans to include a propellant plant on its initial cargo missions. Rather than transporting hydrogen from Earth to make methane and oxygen, as others, including NASA, have proposed, the company intends to mine the frozen water that's abundant on and just below the surface of the red planet. The first missions would only take astronauts and cargo, but Musk also intends to take fee-paying passengers in the future. The Big Falcon rocket, or BFR, would be able to accommodate 100 people in its 40 cabins. There are large communal and entertainment areas psychologically necessary because the mission would take months. Elon Musk expects that by 2060, there could be 1 million residents on Mars. To establish this colony, Musk plans at least 10,000 flights in his BFRs, in addition to the ones that will be carrying equipment and supplies. First, of course, the BFR has to be up and running. Conservative estimates put the cost of development at over $10 billion. So, how's he going to pay for it? Launching satellites, telescopes, cleaning up debris, and servicing the ISS. However, the Martian colonists would be facing, as Musk put it, fairly expensive tickets. He anticipates that years further down the line, the cost of tickets could drop to $100,000 or $200,000. So if you own a house and sell it, you could find yourself joining the other colonists, basking in the Martian dust storms and radiation. In September 2016, Elon Musk first announced his intention to colonize Mars. He wanted humanity to be an interplanetary species, largely because of the threats of nuclear war, pandemics, ecological degradation, and climate change. The biggest problem facing him wasn't the technology, he considered that to be inevitable, but was financing his project. In his presentation at the International Astronautical Congress in Adelaide, Australia, he gave hints as to his business plan. True to form, his independent spirit, he was going to finance it himself. He would make SpaceX's entire existing fleet of vehicles obsolete, the Falcon Heavy, the Falcon 9 and the Dragon, and focus exclusively on the BFR. He would cannibalize the retired fleet and use much of it in the BFR's development and construction. Apart from recycling his present fleet, Musk also intends to raise money by offering services to other space enterprises. The reusable Big Falcon rocket would put satellites and telescopes into orbit and clean up space debris. This last project is essential for the future of space exploration. On July 5, 2016, the United States Strategic Command announced that they were tracking 17,852 artificial objects orbiting the Earth. This is only debris able to be tracked. By January 2019, new technology led to a major revision of this number. It's quite shocking. There are 128 million bits smaller than half an inch, nearly 900,000 pieces that are half to 4 inches in size, and 34,000 pieces larger than that. Already, this debris is causing problems. Collisions are occurring that risk the integrity of space vehicles, and the tiny particles are found to be coating telescope optics. And it doesn't help that India has a policy of deliberate destruction of its own defunct satellites, as occurred in 2019. One encouraging proposal for raising revenue is Musk taking over from the Russians in servicing the International Space Station when they end their involvement in 2020. In addition, Musk intends using the Big Falcon rocket to provide Earthbound travel services. At present, the flight between Los Angeles and New York takes about 5 hours. Fancy doing it in less than 15 minutes? There's a huge bonus to the Big Falcon rocket's missions to the Moon and Mars. Musk intends to provide an alternative to present-day airplane flights. From the Earth, the BFR would zoom into low orbit, where there's little friction and no bad weather and turbulence, and then zoom back down to a landing pad. Fancy going around the world? No problem, just less than an hour. But apart from getting there and back, what other challenges would Musk's Martian colonization face? One, certainly, is how to obtain sufficient liquid water. If you've seen the 1964 classic movie Dr. Strangelove or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, you'll remember that amazing scene near the end with Slim Pickens as he rides the atomic bomb falling from the plane. Will we see Elon Musk doing this one day, in a cowboy costume, waving his wide-brimmed hat and shouting "Yeehaw"? One of his proposals is to nuke the red planet's poles to release water trapped beneath the surface. Although he claims to have done the math, it's not actually known if he's serious or whether it's one of his more eccentric jokes. Given that part of the inspiration for his project is to get away from nuclear warfare and environmental pollution, it would be a rather strange way to kick off mankind's interplanetary aspirations and can probably be dismissed as dark humor. But there is one challenge that cannot be dismissed, and it's one that faces not just Musk, but all enterprises in zero or low gravity: health. Let's look at this in detail. One of the assertions frequently made by flat earthers to prove a stationary Earth, and we're not here to mock anyone, is that we'd feel the astounding speeds it's traveling through space. For example, that the Earth is spinning at up to 1,000 miles per hour, depending upon your location. Here, that we orbit the Sun at about 67,000 miles per hour, and that the Sun and the Solar System are moving through space at about 500 million miles per hour. They say we'd notice it. The response, of course, is that we have no senses that can perceive constant speed, only changes in velocity, acceleration, deceleration, and changes of direction. The reality for the passengers going to Mars is that they wouldn't have any convenient false gravity caused by motion, as nearly all the journey would be at the same speed. And weightlessness brings some serious problems. With every month that passes, our bones lose nearly 2% of their minerals. This can make them brittle and is largely irreversible. Everyone on board would have to do exercises using specialized equipment. Even so, the problem, though reduced, would still be a threat to health. Muscles waste away in weightlessness, and though reversible, muscle atrophy is linked to cancer, heart failure, and liver failure. Red blood cell production is appreciably lowered too. Anemia, as it's called, reduces oxygen concentrations in the body, which can cause dizziness, shortness of breath, fatigue, and heart palpitations. The immune system is also negatively affected. This can result in type 1 diabetes, sinus, ear, and skin infections, bronchitis, inflammation of internal organs, pneumonia, meningitis, and arthritis. And, to trump it all, flatulence in a big way. But is there really a market for such adventures? Elon Musk has frequently expressed his disappointment that the US, once the leader in moon exploration, hasn't returned there since 1972. It's possible that the Chinese success in landing a rover, the Yutu, on the moon in December 2013 may help to reignite the lunar space race. Indeed, almost exactly 4 years later to the day, President Trump signed a directive for NASA to refocus on the moon. On hearing the news, Musk said, "Huh? We should have had a lunar base by now." 3 months before President Trump's announcement, Musk stated that he intended to land there in just a few years with his big Falcon rocket, delivering cargo and people. In May 2019, NASA put in a request to Congress for an additional $1.6 billion on top of the $21.5 billion already agreed to achieve a lunar landing by 2024. And most of this money is being offered to private companies, including SpaceX. So yes, although the timescales will inevitably change, it would appear that Musk is on the right track and spurred on, no doubt, by the other companies who have expressed similar aspirations. Well, will the eccentric, but brilliant and fiercely ambitious Elon Musk be the victor? In a reversal of H.G. Wells' classic, The War of the Worlds, are we set to invade Mars? The race is on.